Griffin, and this is my ENME489y QR code detector. So first we're going to detect a QR code and then decode the information with the Raspberry Pi and display that information on the camera window. My application is basically going to be in substitute of using a QR code reader app. So my phone already has a QR code reader built into the camera, but my computer does not have one, so this would be a great application instead of downloading a QR code reader app. So it's going to read in the QR code and send an email to the person so they can open the QR code on their laptop. So looking into the code first, we are importing a bunch of packages, and most of these are for sending the email to the user. So first we're going to open the Pi camera module using this command, and then we're going to capture the video of what's happening in front of the Pi camera. So we're next going to define the detector, and I'm initializing a data array, and I'll explain this later, but I'll be using an array to store the data items, and I'm initializing a counter here. So next we're going into this while loop, and it's saying while we have data, we're going to capture and read this information. We're going to look at the data and define a bounding box region for this information. So as long as there is a bounding box, in other words there is data, we're going to create a line and create a box around this QR code, and then we're also going to put text of what this information is that the QR code contains. So now we're going into this if statement, so if there is data, and this is where the counter comes into play. So every time it goes to this if statement, it is going to increment by 1, and this is so I can place the data into an array. So we're going to print out the data to the user and then append it to this data array that I initialized. And basically the point of this is to prevent a bunch of emails from being sent like 100 times just because a QR code is shown. So we're going to compare each data set to the last one, and if it's the same, then we will not send an email. But if they're different, in other words there's another QR code, then we are going to send the email. So this just prevents, again, a bunch of emails being sent of the same information, which we won't need. So now we're getting into the email part of the code. We have this user and passcode logging into the from address, and then we're going to send it to me, and the subject's going to be QR code reading at this time. The body of the image is going to be the QR scanner data, and it's going to be sending this data to the user and attaching it to the body. And so now all of this code just sends the email to the user, and then it's going to print to us saying the QR code data has been sent. And lastly, it is going to show the QR code detector images to the screen. Alright, now we're going to test out the QR code reader. So here's our first QR code. Okay, and now looking at the output screen, you can see that the QR code data was only sent when it read the data for the first time. It didn't send it a million times afterwards. And I'm going to test out one more QR code with this same code and see the data changed. So it sent the email for the first time and it keeps reading the data. So now we will go over to the email, and this is the first one. It's just ENME489y, and this is what the email looks like. And there's our second one. Here's the second email, which is just a Wikipedia link.